Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the forecast from the Decision Desk HQ in the 2024 presidential election matchup between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And we're going to be basing off the map off this forecast alone, in which as of right now they give Kamala Harris roughly a 55% chance of defeating Donald Trump, and he only has a 45 percentage point chance, and this is a major improvement for Democrats from Joe Biden. She is a better replacement. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed as we are approaching 4,000. Click the bell so you don't miss on my content. Press the like button, share this video, as we do have memberships. You can find links to that in the description section if you aren't interested. Now back to the topic of today's video. Let's begin with this forecast. As of right now, Kamala Harris is at 276 electoral votes, and the Decision Desk HQ puts Donald Trump currently at 262. Yet again, this forecast is updated from the previous one, in which Donald Trump, I believe, had a higher chance. So Harris's lead is actually growing significantly higher, and here are the percentage in some of these number of these swing and battleground states that can ultimately decide the outcome of this election, especially the Rust Belt. And you have obviously a tipping point state, the deciding factor, as we all call it, Pennsylvania, which whoever wins Pennsylvania will most likely win the election. So let's begin with the map. So as of right now, according to Arizona from this forecast, they currently give Donald Trump roughly a 51% chance of winning this state. So yes, he is the favorite to win the state of Arizona by a tilt margin, according to the Decision Desk HQ's forecast, by probably under percentage point. Realistically, on election day, it would be decided by under percentage point. Obviously, we have the RFK endorsement factor. He also dropped out, and so maybe that can really benefit Donald Trump. And speaking of RFK, Wisconsin and Michigan Supreme Court are refusing to withdraw Kennedy from the ballot, even though he literally just dropped out. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court, specifically in a 5-1 decision, voted to not take Kennedy off the ballot, even though he literally requested to, which I don't know why. What's the reason behind that? It makes absolutely no sense. So yes, Donald Trump is a slight favorite. In reality, Arizona is a toss-up. Harris has a 49 percentage point chance of winning this state, which is actually high. They currently give Kamala Harris the advantage by 54 percentage, point-wise. And this state is supposed to be the reddest according to majority of polls on 538, which typically Wisconsin would be the reddest of the three Rust Belt states, but all of a sudden it's going to be Pennsylvania according to the polls, which just makes no sense. Maybe because Trump got shot there, it's going to have a high turnout for him in Pittsburgh. Maybe that could be a possibility, but still Wisconsin is supposed to vote to the right of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, but it's not going to be the case according to the polls. So Trump has a 46% chance of winning Pennsylvania in 2024. So this is going to be considered a tilt margin for the Vice President Kamala Harris, according to this forecast in the state of Pennsylvania. We take a look at Wisconsin, in which Kamala Harris is winning this state with a 58% chance, so higher than Pennsylvania, even though Biden's margin of victory was higher in Pennsylvania than it was in Wisconsin back in 2020, which is just why it does not make any sense to me. So they give Trump a 42% chance of winning the state of Wisconsin in 2024. This is going to be considered also a tilt margin, just like Pennsylvania, for the Vice President Kamala Harris. This is the map according to the forecast. Yet again, this is not my prediction. I just want to make it clear. And then as for Nevada, surprisingly, Kamala Harris has a 61% chance of winning the state of Nevada. And this is exactly why, in my opinion, the polls are complete trash. And we take them with a grain of salt. Because there is no way that Kamala Harris has a higher chance of winning Nevada than she does in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. This forecast from The Hill, or the Decision Desk HQ, has Kamala Harris with a 56% chance of winning Pennsylvania, but all of a sudden she has a much higher chance of winning Nevada, which is supposed to vote to the right of Pennsylvania, by the way, with 61%. I don't understand how she has a higher chance of winning Nevada than she does in those Rust Belt states. So that's going to be considered a tilt margin as well for Kamala Harris. She would narrowly win this according to the forecast by under percentage point. It's going to be extremely close. And then as for North Carolina, this forecast gives Donald Trump the advantage with 64%, nearly 2/3 of winning this state. So that's going to be considered lean. That's the margin for Donald Trump. And when Georgia and Arizona both had flipped to Biden in 2020. North Carolina did the exact opposite and stayed red for Donald Trump. It goes to show you how much less red I would say Arizona and Georgia is than a state like North Carolina, especially considering the demographics in which Arizona and Georgia is trending towards the left. Meanwhile, North Carolina, you can argue, is going to get bluer in the future, but this still is surprisingly a very red state, as Republicans are doing tremendous in terms of new registered voters and voter registration. They're gaining new voters that they did not have in 2020 on their side. And this is the map so far according to the forecast from The Hill and Decision Desk HQ. And as for the next state of Georgia, which we just talked about, they give Donald Trump a 64% chance, basically the same amount chance that he has in North Carolina. So this forecast is suggesting that North Carolina and Georgia would basically vote in the same direction by similar margins. And Kamala Harris is sitting at a 36% chance of winning the state of Georgia in 2024. I think it's one of the more easier flips for the former president. It was the closest state in 2020 by 10,000 votes, only went to Biden by 0.2%. And don't get me wrong, I would not be surprised if Harris had won Georgia or if she would, but still, Donald Trump is the favorite in this state according to this forecast by arguably a lean margin. And then we take a look at the next battleground state of Michigan, in which this probably is going to be the bluest of them all, of the Rust Belt states in 2024. 66% chance going to Kamala Harris, and this forecast currently gives Donald Trump roughly a 34% chance, 1 in 3, of winning the state of Michigan. Keep in mind, it was the bluest of the three in 2020 and in 2016 as well. So I would not be surprised if Harris wins Michigan, and I do have her winning it, by the way, by a lean margin. And now we have the next swing state from this forecast. Florida, surprisingly, is not supposed to be this close, but Donald Trump has a 73% chance of winning the state. So this is actually getting closer. It is getting closer. According to 538, his lead is only 4% in this state. That's about the same margin he had won by in 2020. And this is a state. Florida is supposed to go to Donald Trump by nearly 10 percentage points. In fact, when Biden was still in the race, it was supposed to go to Donald Trump by double digits, by over 10 points. And the fact that he's not winning it by 8 or 9, which is what he should be, the fact that it's within 4 points, that's the margin for Trump, is not good news for him. Or it just means that the polls are trash and severely underestimating him, which is literally what happened in 2020. And maybe he does get that 8 or 9% that I'm talking about. But the fact that he's only up by 4 according to 538 is not good news for him, and it's weak numbers, and it's very, I would say, good for Kamala Harris. So even though he still has a 73% chance, he can still have a 73% chance, but only win the state by literally 2 percentage points. That's not good. He needs to win it by nearly 10 points, and I think that would be a strong victory for him. If he wins it by 4 in reality, that is going to be horrible, and I think if he were to win the state of Florida by like 3 or 4 percentage points, he would lose the election to Kamala Harris, and she would have a decisive victory. And so with that being said, Florida's lean, according to this forecast, and also 530 has it lean for Donald Trump as well. In my opinion, it's supposed to be either likely or even safe, because DeSantis just literally 2 years ago had won the state by nearly 20 points. And the fact that Trump is, underperforming DeSantis by that much, he's only winning by 4, according to 538, is not good news. And then as for New Hampshire, this forecast from the Decision Desk HQ and The Hill gives Kamala Harris, an 82% chance of winning New Hampshire. It's a likely margin for her. I agree as well. I do think she'd win this state by probably around 5 to 6 percentage points. I do think Tim Walz on the ticket can really help her with those college-educated voters. So New Hampshire would be likely for her according to this forecast, and I happen to agree as well. And then you have Minnesota, in which this forecast gives Kamala Harris an 81% chance of winning this state. Considering that her VP is literally the governor of this state, obviously has that home state advantage, and I do think that she will win Minnesota on Election Day by probably around 8 percentage points, a likely margin. And obviously Texas is also going to be likely for Donald Trump. I forgot to fill that out as well. And Virginia is going to be lean for Kamala Harris. The latest poll has her up by 5 percentage points. We don't really have too much data for Virginia, so I will be going off based off the latest poll, which is actually from like a couple months ago, not really accurate. I'm just waiting for new data to come out of the state of Virginia. So there you have it, 276 electoral votes for Kamala Harris to Donald Trump's 262, a very close election according to the forecast, an updated one from the Decision Desk HQ and The Hill. They partnered together, obviously, and then their model gives a 0.4% chance of this election ending up in a 269 to 269 tie. Obviously, if that were to happen, Trump would have to, flip Nebraska's second congressional district, which as of right now, that's not going to happen. And it's probably the most unlikeliest scenario out of any scenario you have. And so if you take a look at their map, they currently give Kamala Harris a base floor of 241 electoral votes at the very least in her worst case scenario. And as for Donald Trump, in his worst case, the base floor for him is 219 electoral votes. So you can see that Kamala Harris has the electoral map advantage. Now, if Biden was still in the race, this forecast would flip-flop in favor of Donald Trump significantly, because when I was covering this forecast, they had Donald Trump and a higher advantage electorally, and now it's completely flip-flopped, and the replacement of Kamala Harris is absolutely working according to majority of polls pretty much. And so there you guys have it, a 55% chance for Kamala Harris to Donald Trump's 45% of winning the presidency if the election is held today based off this forecast. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this video in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss all my content, share this video, press the like button, as we do have memberships. You can find links to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.